What is going on, everyone? Trust the Buzz here. If you're new to the channel, I make Charlotte Hornets content. So if that interests you, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. If you cannot tell by the thumbnail title of this video, in today's video, we're talking about the Charlotte Hornets winning the tiebreaker between them and the Portland Trail Blazers for the third pick in this upcoming draft. Well, not necessarily the third pick, but the third best odds to get the number one overall pick. I think it's like a 2% difference, so it may not be that big of a difference as far as like the how the kind of expectations go or the percentages go, but still I'll take the 2%. Really, the one thing I really just want to talk about is just who can we expect in that kind of range. This isn't a deep dive, trust me, I will have videos for that. Baby's here, so it's just been hectic. You might can even see how tired I am. So it's just not been easy to kind of run to the recording setup and get everything recorded and up and put up in time before the baby starts crying or it's time to feed the baby or something like that. So excuse me for the just not the inaccuracy, but just the inconsistency. I do have some big news as far as the podcast coming along. Once that's announced, I'll be able to give you more information, but just know some good things are happening. And for me, I've just not been a very consistent podcaster. I've been really good at, until, my life kind of changed, I've been really good at trying to get in videos like in front of you, but I have not been good to be able to be consistent with the podcast. It's just really hard to run a one-man podcast, especially when you like the video aspect more than you like the podcast aspect. So we're going to have some big news on that. But as far as the draft lottery, like I said, I just kind of want to talk about some players in that range. So guys, we can expect, and I'll kind of just give really, really brief synopsis about these guys, but it's just to put these names on your radar if you're someone that just doesn't care too much about the draft. To put it in perspective, we got, I think one for more than likely is just going to be Alexander Sarr. I don't really think the team necessarily matters. I don't think we're going to get a situation where, if the Wizards get the pick, if the Pistons get the pick, if this team gets the pick. I think the overall number one consensus is going to be Alexander Sarr. Now, I'm not saying Alexander Sarr is by far and away the best player in the draft. I just feel like he has the most upside. He has the most tools that you can work with right now. He has upside to be where he could be like a very, very good Jaren Jackson Jr., who we all know JJJ is actually pretty good or really good. But he also has tools to be where if he's not Jaren Jackson Jr., there's other things he can do. He can still probably play the defense, but maybe not hit the shots. He can maybe hit the shot, and maybe the defense is just okay. There's just things you can do to work with him. To me, he has the best tools. I wouldn't say, honestly, he's the best player, but highest upside, best tools, just the best scalability when it comes to taking what he's done, he's French, but he's been playing in the Australian League to be what he's played in the Australian League and, not the World Cup, but I forget the word, globally, let's just say globally, and internationally, that's the word I was looking for, and take that and apply it to the NBA. I think he just has the best set of tools to be able to do that. Next, and this isn't no big board or anything. This is just consensus. We'll get more into like what I exactly think about each and every prospect and where they kind of ranked as we go. But I think one is pretty solid. Two, you can go Ron Holland. I've seen people go Ron Holland. I've seen people have Ron Holland drop down all the way to like 8. I've seen him drop out the top 10. But Ron Holland to me, I think is a very good player. I hate to make this comparison, but I see it. Basically, my point is what Ron Holland was able to do in the G League is almost reminiscent of what Scoot Henderson was doing in the G League. They're not the same player by any means. They both did struggle to shoot, but I think Ron Holland, we're seeing more of his overall game. I think Scoot, it was just very limited. And for me, as you all know on this channel, I said I like Scoot. I always said Brandon Miller was the better fit, but I just like Scoot more. But for Ron Holland, I think it works out for him because unlike Scoot, with Ron Holland, we've been able to see all facets of his game. And yes, it's still, he cannot shoot. He's not the best shooter, but I do see a path for him to be able to become a better shooter. He very much reminds me of Harrison Barnes, and not even Harrison Barnes coming to, well, I guess you could say Harrison Barnes coming into NBA, but really Harrison Barnes going into Carolina. The high flyer, the guy that's able to run the break, the guy that can make passes, but, he kind of is a one-man show. And there's times where, he may not even look to his teammate. He's maybe not the best assist man, but he has the ability to. He can stretch the floor. It's just not consistent. But all the tools to be a great player. And we see how Harrison Barnes was able to transform, his career because, with the Warriors, they kind of wanted him to be that. And then like a little bit through his tenure, they were like, oh, well, we kind of need you to more so to do this. And he adjusted to that. Then he went to the Mavericks and then he adjusted to what they wanted him to do. And then he was with the Kings. I can't think of any other team. I think those are the only three teams he's been with, but either way, my point is that is on Harrison Barnes as far as his ability to recognize what kind of player he is, recognize what's his skill set, recognize what's going to keep him into the league. I'm not saying Ron Holland will be able to do that or won't be able to do that, but the natural ability, the natural skill set is there, very reminiscent of Harrison Barnes. I only said Scoot Henderson because, like I said, of what he did in the G League is reminiscent of Scoot Henderson, of being a younger guy and able to not necessarily dominate, but just jump off the screen when you're watching him play against, pretty good NBA or NBA caliber players. But yeah, it's just very reminiscent of Harrison Barnes. It depends on how you feel about that. Some people like it, some people love it. Like I said, the biggest thing you're going to have to look at is will he have the ability to, one, adjust his game if his athletic ability is not just going to take him all the way where he needs to be. Because like I said, that's all on Harrison Barnes. That was his team. That was his camp. That was his mental toughness and maturity to be like, okay, this is really what I need to do to stay in the league. And two, like I said, will the athleticism just work in the NBA? Those are the two things you got to think about. Can he adjust his game to kind of fit more NBA? And then also, two, will that athleticism playing in the NBA, not playing in the G League, will all those physical tools be able to translate? I think they will. I really like Ron Holland. The shooting really, really scares me just because we're not a good shooting team. There's some times you're going to know on this channel, there's sometimes I don't feel high about certain prospects, and it honestly has nothing to do with the prospects. It has just everything to do with the history of this team. Rob Dillingham being one of those players where I actually have no problem with him. That archetype kind of doesn't really work in the NBA, and he's not even next, but I just want to bring him up. He might not even make this video, but that archetype necessarily doesn't play out in the NBA, not too often, and it also doesn't help that I feel like the Hornets just don't do when those type of players pop, they're usually not with the Hornets. That's kind of my perspective on that. Next, we could talk about, Matas Buzelis. He is probably my favorite out of everybody after Alexander Sarr, just because, yes, he has defensive tools. He's a lot like, and I'm not comparing skill set. I'm not even going to say it, but either way, my point is, he has defensive upside, but really his game is offensively. He can take you off the dribble. He can create for his own. His catch and shoot is pretty decent. His finishing at the rim is pretty decent. I just think, really, if anything, he had a nagging injury last year, so that kind of prevented him from being a player that I thought he could be. But he has all the tools there. You do need to work on his own ball defense, but he has the ability and the tools. You can watch him and see, okay, with right coaching, with the right players around him, he can be a really good, not really good, but a very, very serviceable defensive NBA player. And sometimes on winning teams, that's all you need. But his offensive skill set is what really is the seller here. And he's really good at it. And I really enjoy watching him play. I don't really want to add another offensive player, but I still don't feel like the team is really in this position to pick and choose quite yet. Last year, I felt so. Yeah, it felt more right last year than it felt this year, just because this year, with the draft being so much of a crapshoot that it is, it's just hard. You're just scared about what you're going to get because all these players do all these different kinds of things. But with Matas Buzelis, I think he's just a very talented player. Very, very offensive heavy. However, we do need that, even though, like I said, I'd rather someone more defensive. But you can't deny the offensive talent. And next, we're going to talk about Stephon Castle from UConn. They won the national championship back-to-back. I have a channel called Draft Nerds, which I don't even know when the next video on that is ever going to come out, if it does. But the last video I did, or maybe two videos, I don't know. Either way, one of the last videos I did was talking about how I believe UConn could go back-to-back, and they went back-to-back. So I think that's pretty cool. But either way, Stephon Castle, he's like a combo guard. Definitely needs to work on his shooting, but the catch and shoot, I think, it looked really good if you look in the highlights. But he had a point guard kind of like Tristan Newton, who was able to, dribble penetrate and kick it out to Stephon Castle. We saw how LaMelo Ball this year was able to work on his dribble penetration. It wasn't elite. It wasn't great. It was just much better than it has been in the past. That's all I care about. You continue to develop. I'm not here to say you need to jump from one level to this level in the summer. just keep working on your game. LaMelo Ball did that, and I think that could really help Stephon Castle. Now, where it really helps out is he's a more defensive player. He's like an on-ball guy. He's gonna make the dirty plays, and we need someone like that. I think who we draft is really dependent on what are the plans for Miles Bridges also, because with Miles Bridges, I think one thing is he is that guy to play the bully ball. He is that guy to get to the basket. He is that guy to be able to do the dirty work. It's just that last year he didn't really do that. Now, he's missed a year. The team wasn't good. So much other things were going with the team outside of them not being good. It was just a lot going on last year. So it was just really, really hard for me to judge Miles Bridges and say he's no longer that guy. Like another thing with the athleticism. Yes, he wasn't as athletic as he's been in years past, but missing a year, not playing on a good team, not have a forever changing roster around you, it's just not easy. So I'm not really ready to sell the ship, but I will say that there's nothing wrong with having two dogs on the team. There's nothing wrong with having a guy like Miles Bridges and a guy like Stephon Castle at all. If it was for me, everybody on the team would be like that. It's just, like I said, if Miles Bridges is coming back and he commit to the defensive end, which he said he wants to, that opens up the gate for us to maybe take someone slightly more offensive with defensive upside like Matthews Buzelis. But if he's going to continue to be the offensive weapon that we know he can be, and just the defense is just going to be there, I'm mainly speaking of off-ball defense, then maybe we need to go more Stephon Castle, also considering we don't know what's going on with Cody Martin, and we could talk about that in another video. But I know he's injured, and I know he could come back, but it's just the injuries are just – it's hard to judge injuries because of the state of the team, but also it's just not like he's LaMelo. LaMelo's good enough. I've seen enough of LaMelo where as long as we're not good, I'm willing to deal with the injuries. Now, if we're good or he's missing key games that's causing us to, trying to drop and not reach our potential, then that's a problem. But for someone like Cody Martin, he's replaceable. Nothing he does is like extraordinary. And I think Stephon Castle will play his role a lot better, a lot cheaper. And like I said, it'll just be better overall for the team. Another person we can talk about really, really quick because this video is running long is Nikola Topic. He is from KK Mega Basket, which I think is in Russia. I'm not sure. I'm actually going to get that international basketball pass this year because it looks dope just seeing that environment. But he dealt with an injury. He would be LaMelo Ball insurance, and I know a lot of people get upset when you say that because of the fact that it's almost like, oh, you're taking the team away from Melo, and I'm personally not. I don't think anyone that's saying that the Hornets should look into Nikola Topic is saying that they should take the Hornets away from LaMelo. They just paid LaMelo. There's no reason to do that. But you do need that insurance. Now, is Micic going to be that person? I don't know. Can Trey Mann be that person? I don't know. But to have someone who's as talented as Nikola Topic is, and before his injury was looking like he could be number one, and some people still have him number one. Yes, his shooting does need a lot of work, but I think his offensive game and his ability to control the team and be the floor general, I think is something that we don't have. Micic is kind of still learning the league, but he's a 30-year-old rookie. How long can we keep him? So it's like, it's no really offense to Micic, but where we're trying to go, yes, he has the experience and he could be like a tertiary guard, but can you look at him being a 30-year-old guard, still learning the NBA? Can you really look at him to be that guy? I don't know. Maybe you want to take Nikola Topic to be, the LaMelo Ball assurance or reassurance or insurance. It's insurance. Because he's younger, and he does play very similar. He doesn't really play that much defense, but neither did Micic. And like I said, it's just you're learning the NBA at a much younger age than being 30. So I don't know. We'll see where it can go. I think his offensive game or his shooting does have upside. I see a world where he is going to learn able to shoot, but he's also good at just navigating the offense, whether that's him going to the basket, him finding the open man. I just think he'd be a really good playmaker. And one thing that I try to tell a lot of fans, and including myself, is with LaMelo Ball, I think the biggest thing is he's just not going to come back 100%. I don't care how if he gets the whole summer, fine. It's just unrealistic to expect him to be 100% day one. Same with Mark Williams. So we need someone to kind of be able to carry those minutes until he gets right. And that could take a whole season because he's missed a lot of basketball in the last 2 years. So having a rookie, yes, it sucks, but it's someone that I think is good enough to where if we surround him with guys like Brandon Miller, Miles Bridges, Mark Williams, like I said, even though I know it's going to take him time to come back. Grant Williams, other guys who are just veterans and are ready to play. Trey Mann also falls into that category. And whoever else we can get. Seth Curry, I hope he comes back because he's a really good shooter for us. Just, you know what I mean. Like, if we can surround him with other talent, those LaMelo Ball minutes won't be missed as much as they have been in the past. And that's kind of just my only thing on that. But yeah, those are just 5 guys I'm looking at. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Like I said, there's plenty of people to think about. But yeah, that really does it for the video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.